just past midnight on New Year's Day, 1863, on Brigantine Island. Despite its close proximity to the bustling Atlantic City, Brigantine was a small, fairly isolated fishing village of around 100 people. Inside the lively Smith Hotel, the air crackled with celebration as guests toasted the dawn of a new year. As the party started coming to an end, suddenly the doors burst open and a young woman staggered in. In the doorway stood a figure of terror. The woman's clothes were drenched in blood, a fresh gunshot wound gaping on her arm, and a desperate scream ripped from her throat. The story she was about to tell would be seared into the annals of New Jersey history, described by one local paper as one of the most diabolical tragedies the state had ever witnessed. An axe-wielding madman, a loaded gun, a desperate struggle. And unbeknownst to them, the worst was happening at that very moment. This is the story of a brutal double murder on Brigantine Island, a crime that left an entire region trembling in fear. But lurking beneath this horrific event are connections to an even more tragic event, a connection that led us down a path we never saw coming. And what we uncovered might be a clue to a centuries-old island legend, a rumor whispered in hushed tones for generations. We have a lot to uncover, so brace yourselves and let's dive in. The Smith Hotel, a grand establishment that catered to Brigantine's burgeoning tourism, stood proudly on the island's shores. Built in 1857, it was a veritable behemoth, as evidenced by its prominent appearance in this 1920 aerial photo. Surrounding the hotel were the modest homes of local fishermen and their families. Among them were the Turners, Benjamin, his wife Maria, and their two grown children, Eliza and Daniel, both in their early 20s. Close by lived two other families. One was the Smith family, headed by Mark, who had several children, including the youngest, a 4-year-old named Georgiana Smith. Mark's wife, Martha, had passed away at age 30 just weeks earlier. Lastly, there were the Gandys, where 20-year-old Jesse resided with his parents and 5 other siblings. On this fateful New Year's Eve, all the adults in these families were off the island celebrating the new year. Inside the Turner home that night were Daniel, Eliza. Also in their care was their neighbor, 4-year-old Georgiana Smith. By all accounts, besides a small gathering of people ringing in the new year at the nearby Smith Hotel, it was a routine night on this quiet island. Sometime after midnight, those in the Turner house were sound asleep, but the silence of the night would soon be interrupted by a loud knock at the door. With the adults gone, a dark thought seems to have taken root in Jesse Gandy's mind. This would be the perfect night to unleash a storm of violence. Jesse, his intentions hidden by the darkness, walked to the Turner house and pounded on the door. Awakened from their slumber, Daniel and Eliza heard his chilling invitation. "Wanna go gunning?" In the 1800s, gunning referred to the popular activity of sport shooting. For a modern equivalent, imagine a friend knocking at 2 a.m. asking if you want to play a round of golf. Naturally, Daniel was confused. Still half asleep, he opened the door, only to discover Jesse's true, horrifying intent. With an axe in hand, Jesse was hunting that night, but his prey was human. The instant Daniel cracked the door, boom, the axe blade slammed into his head, dealing a massive blow. Fueled by adrenaline, Daniel fought back, grappling with Jesse in the doorway. Eliza, startled awake by the commotion, rushed downstairs to find her brother locked in a life-and-death struggle. She wrested the axe from Jesse's hands and in a frantic move seized a nearby gun before he could reach it. Hearts pounding, the siblings managed to lock Jesse outside and retreat upstairs, where Eliza began tending to Daniel's grievous head wound. Neither had any idea where Jesse had gone, but they were about to find out. Moments later, the front door gave way under Jesse's enraged assault. He picked up the gun from the earlier struggle and stormed up the stairs with murderous intent, but Eliza was ready for him. In a desperate struggle, she wrenched the weapon from his grasp and hurled it out the window. Momentarily disarmed, Jesse retreated back downstairs, his plan thwarted. Realizing Daniel's wound was dire, Eliza knew she had to seek help immediately. Fearing Jesse was hiding downstairs, she climbed through the upstairs window onto the porch roof, hoping to escape. To her horror, Jessie had circled outside and scaled the porch. The gun she threw out the window moments ago was now pointed right at her. In that heart-stopping moment, Eliza flung a nearby chair at him, a desperate projectile to thwart a lethal shot. Jessie pulled the trigger, in a moment defying belief, both bullet and chair flying through the air simultaneously toward their target. Both found their marks. The chair crashed into Jessie's head, knocking him down, while the bullet tore through Eliza's arm. Wounded but alive, she scrambled back inside, raced through the house, and fled out a back door, disappearing into the night before Jessie could finish her off. But Jessie's rampage was not over yet. Returning inside the Turner house, gun in hand, he set upon Daniel once more. If the axe wound had not killed him, Jessie's bullet did. He shot Daniel as he lay helpless in bed. Then, in a final, unthinkable act, Jessie set the house ablaze. Flames roared, engulfing the home, with Daniel's body still inside. Tragically, neighbor, 4-year-old Georgiana Smith, who was in the care of the Turner siblings that night, was still inside. Her innocent life cut short with Jessie's night of terror. What could drive a man to such unspeakable violence? What twisted motive lay behind this brutal spree? Newspapers of the time offered 2 chilling possibilities. The first, unrequited love turned murderous rage. Had Eliza rejected Jessie's advances? It was rumored that Daniel had confronted Jessie earlier that day, warning him to stay away from his sister. Was this a case of, if I can't have you, no one will? A terrifyingly plausible scenario. The second theory, greed fueled by a local legend. Whispers of a hidden fortune, a stash of gold rumored to be concealed within the Turner home worth over $500, had circulated amongst the town. Was Jessie aware of this alleged treasure? Was he attempting a robbery that spiraled out of control? One article even reported that numerous gold coins were recovered from the charred ruins of the house, adding fuel to this theory. $500 was a large sum those days. Home sales on the island around this time often showed transactions of less than $1,000. So what was Benjamin Turner, a humble fisherman in a small fishing village, doing with such a valuable hoard hidden in his home? Was he gambling in Atlantic City long before any casino? Maybe, as a fisherman, he found an undiscovered shipwreck with hidden treasures inside. Or maybe he stumbled upon a buried treasure, maybe even the infamous long-lost pirate treasure of Captain Kidd, said to have been buried on Brigantine Island. That might be a stretch. But then a startling connection emerged, linking this tragedy to an even more catastrophic event in Brigantine's past. The name Benjamin Turner sounded eerily familiar, so we dug deeper and an unsettling connection surfaced. This wasn't the first time the name had been linked to Brigantine and death. 9 years earlier, in 1854, Brigantine's shoreline witnessed a catastrophe of almost unimaginable scale. The Powhatan, packed with hopeful German immigrants, was caught in a savage gale and smashed to pieces off the coast. Accounts suggest that more than 300 souls were lost. Scores of bodies washed ashore on Brigantine's lonely beaches. Someone had to bury the dead, and newspapers reported a local man took on that role. His name, Benjamin Turner. Newspapers also claimed that when authorities arrived a day later to assess the situation, the victims' bodies had been stripped of valuables, gold and jewelry they had almost certainly carried with them on their journey. If Benjamin Turner truly harbors a cache of gold, as local lore insists, his connection to the Powhatan disaster offers 2 compelling paths by which those riches might have fallen into his hands, and, perhaps, fueled Jessie's murderous rage. When the ocean surrendered the shipwreck's victims to Brigantine shores, Turner was tasked with their burial. Did he also seize the chance to strip the dead of their jewelry and coins, smuggling the spoils back to his house before the authorities arrived? Or maybe his task to bury the bodies led him to a discovery. Brigantine's dunes have long hummed with rumors of Captain Kidd and other pirates hiding treasure beneath the sand. While digging graves, might Turner have unearthed that legendary loot, an accidental yet irresistible discovery he chose to keep secret? Definitive proof remains elusive, but the overlapping tragedies, whispered wealth, and violent aftermath weave a tantalizing narrative. Like Brigantine's ever-shifting sands, the truth may still lie just beneath the surface, waiting for someone bold enough to dig. Back to the double murder at the Turner house. What happened to those involved? Jesse's reign of terror ended in a final act of violence. The next morning, his small boat was found drifting in the bay. Inside, a gruesome discovery. Jesse, with his face nearly blown off by a self-inflicted gunshot wound, brought his dark chapter to a close. Eliza, a survivor in every sense, recovered from her wounds and went on to marry Mark Smith, the grieving father of little Georgina, who perished in the fire. They built a life together and raised 3 kids from Mark's first wife and added 5 more of their own. Eliza lived in Brigantine up until her passing in 1921. Although the night of this incident was a mere blip in her 79 years, her account of the event is etched in the island's lore. And finally, we have Benjamin Turner. By all accounts, he returned to his life as a fisherman. There are scattered records of him in the years following the tragedy, but nothing that sheds further light on a hidden treasure mystery. He died on Brigantine Island 2 decades later at the age of 65. A few years after his death, there's a record of Eliza selling the Turner property to the Brigantine Land and Improvement Company, officially closing the Turner chapter on Brigantine. If Benjamin Turner did indeed find some long-lost treasure, it doesn't appear to have dramatically altered his life. One thing we do hope, though, is that after his son Daniel was so brutally murdered, the town was able to find someone else to dig the grave. A small mercy following such unimaginable horror.